I'm the Head of Arts Management Training at the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama. Thank you ever so much for joining us this evening. It's lovely to have you with us for this Q&A session, and it's lovely to see so many of you interested in having a career in arts management and joining us for some training, postgraduate training at the Royal Welsh College. So as well as having our facilitators with us today, we've actually got a few of our students with us and they're going to talk to you a little bit about different bits. So you're going to be chatting to Elisa, then Dom, and then Lauren, and then Eleni. So without further ado, I'm just going to pass straight over to Elisa.
Hi everyone, I'm Elisa and I'll be talking about what a week looks like when you're studying on the course. So I'm going to speak in Welsh first and then in English. Helo, Elisa dwi, a dwi'n fy ail flwyddyn yn astudio'r cwrs rhan amser. Mae'r wythnos arferol yn newid yn dibynnu ar y tymor ac os ydych chi'n astudio'r cwrs llawn amser neu'r rhan amser. Byddai'n siarad gyntaf am y cwrs i bobl llawn amser. Felly, yn tymor yr Hydref, mae'r darlithoedd yn rhoi sylfaen cryf i chi o wybodaeth am y sector yn syth bin. So, mae'r rhain fel arfer yn digwydd ar ddydd Llun, dydd Mawrth, dydd Mercher a dydd Iau. Mae'r amser tu allan i'r darlithoedd yn cael ei ddefnyddio i ail-edrych ar y darlithoedd, gwneud darllen ychwanegol a gweithio ar waith cwrs ar gyfer pob modiwl. Felly, yn tymor y Gwanwyn, dyma lle ydych chi'n cael rhai darlithoedd fel cyllid, ond mae nifer o rhai eraill fel ar dydd Mawrth a dydd Mercher. Ond y prif peth sydd yn newid y tymor hwn yw bod chi'n gwneud profiad gwaith mewnol ar gyfer 1 neu 2 ddiwrnod yr wythnos. Tra bod ni'n gwneud profiad gwaith, dyn ni'n cymryd rhan mewn setiau dysgu gweithredol sydd yn cynnwys ein cyfoedion a tiwtor mwyn cefnogi ni i gael y mwyaf allan o'n profiad gwaith tra bod ni yn gweithio. Felly, yn ein amser sbar, dyn ni dal yn defnyddio'r amser i wneud asesiadau ac i astudio'n bellach. Wedyn ni, yn tymor yr haf, prif rhan y tymor yma, os chi'n astudio llawn amser, yw'r profiad gwaith llawn amser. Cyn i fynd ar y profiad gwaith, dyn ni'n cael sesiynau i baratoi ac am cael gwybodaeth ychwanegol am yr asesiad ola sydd ar y cwrs. Dyn ni dal yn cwrdd yn y setiau dysgu gweithredol, gan fod y profiadau gwaith ar draws y wlad, dyn ni hefyd yn gwneud rheina'n ddigidol. Mae rhain yn ffordd gwych o gadw mewn cysylltiad gyda'r cwrs a hefyd gyda'n cyfoedion tra bod ni ar profiad gwaith. Felly, na i symud ymlaen nawr i sôn am astudio rhan amser. So dwi wedi bod yn astudio'r cwrs tra'n gweithio rhan amser i sefydliad celfyddydol am 3 dydd yr wythnos. Yn tymor yr Hydref, dych chi'n cymryd rhai modylau yn eich flwyddyn cyntaf a rhai yn eich ail blwyddyn. Yn fy mlwyddyn cyntaf, o'n i mewn ar ddydd Llun a dydd Mawrth, ac yn fy ail flwyddyn, o'n i mewn ar ddydd Mercher. Dwi wir wedi mwynhau astudio tra'n gweithio, as mae wedi golygu bod fi'n gallu defnyddio be dwi wedi dysgu yn syth bin. Mae wedi cryfhau fy mhroses o ddysgu pethau, achos bod fi'n cael trio pethau, unwaith wedi dysgu amdano nhw, fi'n arbrofi a rhoi nhw mewn i sefyllfa go iawn yn syth bin. So, digwyddodd hwn gyda fi yn fy mlwyddyn cyntaf, yn y tymor cyntaf, gyda'r modiwl codi arian er enghraifft. Fyswn ni wedyn yn gweithio ar waith cwrs a darllen ychwanegol yn y nos ac ar ben wythnosau. Felly, bod fi'n astudio rhan amser, dwi dal yn teimlo cysylltiad gyda'r pobl sy'n astudio llawn amser. Cyn mis Mawrth 2020, fas y criw ohonon ni o'r cwrs yn mynd i ddigwyddiadau celfyddydol yng Nghaerdydd a Thu Hwnt. Yna, yn tymor y Gwanwyn ar gyfer pobl rhan amser, eto mae'r darlithoedd yn cael eu rhannu rhwng y flwyddyn cyntaf a'r ail flwyddyn, felly nid ni'n cael dysgu popeth fel mae'r rhai sydd yn astudio llawn amser. Mae'r pobl sydd yn astudio rhan amser hefyd yn gallu dewis gwneud eu profiad gwaith yn y tymor y Gwanwyn neu yn tymor yr haf yn ei flwyddyn cyntaf. Os ydych chi'n gwneud profiad gwaith, ydych chi hefyd yn rhan o'r setiau dysgu gweithredol. Felly, yn y flwyddyn cyntaf, o'n i mewn ar ddydd Mawrth, ac yn tymor y Gwanwyn, o'n i mewn ar ddydd Mawrth a dydd Mercher yn yr ail flwyddyn. Yna, yn hymor yr haf, yn eich ail blwyddyn, dyma lle mae rhaid chi ymrwymo eich amser mwyn wneud profiad gwaith llawn amser. Felly, ydych chi'n gwneud yn union yr un fath a'r rhai sydd yn astudio'r cwrs llawn amser. Cyn i ni fynd ar brofiad gwaith hefyd, ni'n cael darlithoedd i baratoi a gwybodaeth am yr asesiad olaf. Hi, I'm Elisa and I'm in my second year of the course studying part-time. The typical week on the course varies depending on the term and if you're doing the course full-time or part-time. So I'll start by talking through the course for full-time students. So in autumn term, lectures are the main part and they give you a strong foundation of knowledge. They usually happen on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And then the time outside of lectures is an opportunity to review the lectures, do some extra reading, and work on the assessments for each module. Then in spring term, this is where you have some lectures for modules like finance and a few others on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. But the main change is that you're doing your internal placement for 1 or 2 days a week. Whilst we're on placement, we attend action learning sets, which are a form of peer support groups led by a tutor. These check-ins fortnightly on Tuesday afternoons are really helpful to make sure that we sort of stay focused during the placements, and also we're getting the most out of them as well. Dom will speak a little bit more about placements in a bit. And then in the spring term, full-time students still use their free time to review the lectures, work on coursework, and do some extra reading. Then in summer term, full-time placements are the main part of this term. So just before we go on placements, we have additional lectures to prepare us, and we receive some guidance as well about the final project of the MA. We still have action learning sets for the full-time placement. People are all over the country at this point, so the action learning sets are a lovely way to sort of stay connected with the course and check in with your peers whilst you're working. So on to look at what the structure looks like for part-time students. So I've been studying part-time while still working for an arts organisation for 3 days a week. So in the autumn term, you take some modules in your first year and some modules in your second term, in your second year. So in the first year, I was in on Mondays and Tuesdays, and in second year, I was in on Wednesdays. I've really enjoyed studying whilst working, as it's meant that I can apply what I've learned on the course to my job. It has consolidated my learning straight away. So it's been also a chance for me to experiment and to try things out in sort of a real setting straight away. This happened with my fundraising module, for example, in my first term of first year. I would often also work on coursework in the evenings and do some extra reading as well over the weekends. Although I am studying part-time, I still feel connected with the other people on the course who are studying full-time. So last year, pre-March 2020, groups of us on the course would like attend arts events together, and there'd always be sort of a lovely sort of community sense on the course and us being able to go and do things together and socialise. Now onto the spring term for the part-timers. Again, the lectures are split between first and second year. So we still cover everything the full-time students study. So part-timers can choose to do their first placement in spring term or summer term in their first year. If you're studying part-time, you're still part of the action learning sets and when you're on placement. So in my first year, I was in on Tuesdays in the spring term, and this year I'm in on Tuesdays and Wednesdays during spring term. Then in the summer term of your second year, this is where you need to commit fully to be able to do the full-time placement. So this is where we're doing exactly the same thing as those on the full-time course. Before we go on placements, we have additional lectures to prepare us, and then we receive guidance on the final project of the MA as well. So Dom will now talk to you about the placements.
Hello everyone, I'm Dom, and yeah, I'm going to talk to you a bit about the placements available on this course. So there'll be 2 opportunities for you to take placements. One happens in spring, which is a bit shorter, and you have an option for choosing internal placements and external placements with partners from the college, or you will then go on to a summer placement, which is a bit longer, and you will be then most likely doing an external placement. Some of the placements available of good variety. 3 of our students are currently working in partnership with BBC Now, the Royal Orchestra and the college to devise a new kind of section of the orchestra. You could do a kind of come in right at the conception and do a business plan with a charity that has just received government funding of £1 million. So there's lots of different options to do. I've just finished the spring placement, and I chose to assist the acting department in the college. And I was assisting Errol Phillips and Suzanne Packer as they were directing the Acting for Screen module for the first year actors. And it was a fantastic experience. I was basically in charge of the production of that module. So I done the schedule, I done the I found the locations, carried out all the risk assessments, sent him into Cardiff Film Office, received the license to shoot, used the latest software for the scheduling for the 6-day shoot, and basically devised what the 6-day shoot was going to look like. I had COVID responsibilities, risk assessments. I was ensuring that everyone was temperature checked before entering the premises and no one was hanging around too long. It was a fantastic opportunity and I got involved in so many different facets of the project. And it was really awe-inspiring and for me, and a real confidence builder because I was the centre of information. And I knew exactly when the timings were where people would need to be. I knew all the information and I was passing on that information between the actor, the director and the crew. That was a vital part of the whole process for me. And I was completely controlling the hours of the day, the timings, and I thought that was a lot of responsibility to put on me, but I had a lot of guidance and a lot of help. And I could have asked for a lot more help if I needed it, but I got stuck in and I really enjoyed the process. I've really learned from it now, and I feel that with the skills I've learned, I could totally go into a career as being a first producer, assistant director in the future for me. So yeah, there's loads of opportunities available. And I'm very much looking forward to the summer term to do the longer placement now. Oh, and Lauren will now chat to you about life in Cardiff.
Hi, I'm Lauren. I lived in the halls of residence at the college in my first year of my undergrad. 7 Point is on the same road as college, so there's no chance that you'll get lost or anything. And it's only about, I'd say, a 10 to 12 minute walk. If you do choose to live in halls for your postgrad, you usually get put in separate flats to undergrad students, and you can live with other postgrads on the course. I know this year there's a couple of people who've chosen to go in halls and they're together as well. Flats are typically made up of about 6 people. Everyone's got their own room, a queen-size bed, your own ensuite, and then everyone shares the communal kitchen living area. There's plenty of bike space if you want to cycle to college, and college also have a bike shed in partnership as well. I would say if you are going to cycle that you get a lock for your bike. Halls themselves are gated and you get a fob to get in both through the main gate and the door to your block. The main reception of 7 Point, the staff are really friendly, and you've never got to worry about not being in for a parcel either because they'll take it behind the desk for you. If you do drive and you have a car, you may choose you don't need to take it to Cardiff. The public transport's really good, and parking can sometimes be potentially problematic. There's no parking facilities actually at halls, but there is a road behind the nearby gym, and that's got a bit of non-resident parking. Big Tesco and Lidl are probably the closest big supermarkets to halls, and they're walkable depending on how much you're going to buy. There's also a little Tesco's just up the road in case you need a few bits and pieces. If you would prefer to organise your own accommodation, the college do run a find a friend scheme for new students, so you can link up with other people even if you don't want to live with them, but everyone's in a similar position and you can look for houses together. Cathays and Roath are the most popular student areas. My only advice here would be to look at student reviews of letting agents. There's some really good ones, but there's also some not so good ones. As for living in Cardiff in general, there's usually loads to do besides your uni course. Cardiff's absolutely fantastic for shopping. I've lived here nearly 5 years and I still get a little lost in St David's shopping centre. Arts-wise, there's absolutely everything. You can go and see opera and West End musicals at the Millennium Centre, to little contemporary jazz trios playing at the Flute and Tankard. The college also provide lots of opportunities to see music and drama performances by college students and visiting professionals for free. St David's Hall and BBC Now also offer student tickets, and the Sherman and the New Theatre are also really popular venues in Cardiff, and they're both in walking distance from the college. I was actually a bit worried about moving to a city like Cardiff, being a bit of a country bumpkin, but it's got loads of green space. The college itself is right next to Butte Park, and you don't have to travel very far outside Cardiff to feel like you're back in the countryside. And if you're a rugby fan, then usually this time of year is fantastic. The city centre gets pedestrianised on a match day, and the atmosphere is just incredible. So yeah, I would say Cardiff does genuinely have a lovely feel to it, and people are so friendly. I think it's a really nice city to live in. So I'm going to pass over to Eleni, who's going to talk a bit more about reasons for picking the course.
Thanks, Lauren. Hi, I'm Eleni, and I'm a mature student on the course. I'm studying full-time over 1 year. Even though I have 15 years plus experience working internationally in the Middle East, I felt that having a professional qualification would really help my career. As I'm Welsh by birth, I turned to the Royal Welsh College because of its location and its reputation. The Royal Welsh College Arts Management course provides hands-on experience in an ever-changing industry, which is crucial if you're looking for a course that connects you directly with what's currently happening in the sector. The course's reputation enables it to attract tutors and visiting professionals from across the UK and beyond to provide us with the most up-to-date information, as well as providing a wealth of industry placement opportunities. The course is also great for opening doors in the industry, and it usually has a 100% success rate in terms of employment. Even during COVID, I found it really easy to make professional connections and build my network. This has been as varied as meeting people on work placements to picking up the phone and connecting with venues to gain information for assignments. If you use your initiative, Royal Welsh College provides the platform to help you go a long way pretty quickly. The course is designed so that you will always feel welcome and valued regardless of the level of experience you bring to the table. Our cohort is made up of a mixture of people ranging from those with vast experience to university graduates. This mix means we're always having interesting discussions in class and benefit from each other's experience. I would add that it's pretty full on even when you're learning remotely, as we have had to do at the moment. The course content is very thorough and well presented, and the lecturers are always on hand to help you whenever you need them. I feel I've really benefited from the course so far, so can wholeheartedly recommend it if you're a mature student looking for a course that really is going to help you move forward in your career.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. So the rest of the session is going to be open for questions. I'm going to start by answering the questions that have already been submitted, and then we'll move on to answering your live questions. So I would suggest that if you have a question, you either write it in the chat, or when I've come to the end of the questions on the spreadsheet that I've got here, then you raise your Zoom hand. But if you prefer to have a more private type conversation, or if you think of anything afterwards because you didn't think of it now and then you think, oh, drat, I should have said that, then please email admissions@rwcmd.ac.uk and somebody will get back to you to either arrange a little chat on this kind of platform, or they can answer your question via email. So let's have a look at the questions. The first one I've got here is actually from Lucy. And Lucy asks, when are the main exam submission periods? We don't have exams on the course at all. We do what's called continual assessment, and we try and spread the assessments out throughout the year so that you just don't have like a complete bottleneck with everything at once. So all of our assessments are aligned to industry practice. So the type of assessment you do for each module will be trying to replicate the kind of thing you would be doing if you were doing this as part of a job. So a big part of the course is really trying to do exactly what people do for arts management roles. So we're trying to get you to do that through either written assignments or group practice. So some assignments are either presentation-led in a group or presentation-led on your own, but also the work-based learning element of it as well, by you being able to demonstrate what you've learned in a practical setting. So we ask students to look at all of those kinds of things in terms of the way we assess. And we also ask our students to be self-reflective in terms of their practice. So at each stage, and I think Elisa did talk a little bit about the action learning that we do, we ask you to sort of think about where you're going on your learning journey with us and think about how you're going to use your learning in the next stage of your career. So hopefully I've answered that one. The next question I think is from Chloe. and it asks for a little bit of information on modules and on funding. In terms of funding, if you are asking about funding to do the course and things like that, I'm afraid I can't answer that question. You'd need to go back to admissions with that question. I can answer questions about the course. I'm not sure if you mean fundraising, but if you mean fundraising, then come back to me and I can talk about that. The information on our modules should be on the website, so you should be able to see it there. But our main kind of focus is split into 3 areas. So we have what we call skills training, management and leadership training, and work-based learning training. So everyone does the suite of management and leadership and the work-based learning training. So in the management and leadership, we've got a suite of 3 modules. So one of them is about management and leadership in the arts. The next one is about financial management, which the students are working on at the moment. And the third one then is about project planning. So everyone does that. Everyone also does 2 work-based learning modules, a shorter one in the spring and a longer one in the summer term, which is basically moving you out into industry. So we get you in as a learner in the autumn, you sort of morph into a learner stroke arts management professional in the spring, and then we move you out into industry for the summer term. The other section there about skills will very much depend on which pathway you choose to study on the course. So if you are doing the orchestral management pathway, then you'll be looking mostly at orchestral management. If you're looking at creative producing pathway, then you're going to be looking at producing and programming. If you're looking at doing the general management pathway, you do a bit of everything and you do quite a lot of it in more depth as well. So we'd have an access and participation module. We have an audience development and communications module, which is all about marketing, and we have a fundraising module. So you'll do a lot of things. If you can't quite decide yet what you would like to do as a career, you'll do a lot of things so that you can start making your decisions about what you'd like to do. The next question then, I think, is from John, and it asks, can the course be done part-time or distance learning? So yes to part-time. We do a lot of different ways that you can engage with us on a part-time basis, which we like to be flexible as much as possible. So people who are working can actually come and do the course. So we can do 2 years like Elisa is doing, and that just splits the course in 2, and you do certain things in 1 year and certain things in another. But we can also work with you over a period of up to 5 years, if that's what you need to do to balance your work and your other kind of things on in your life. And also we do something called APAL, which is accreditation for prior experiential learning. So that's where we can give you credit for experience that you've got that's relevant. So you have to come to us with 3 years experience, and then we can talk to those people on an individual basis to negotiate their pathway through the course. So we've got quite a few people that we work with like that on every year. So we've got a couple of students this year that are coming to us on an APAL pathway. So we will devise their timetables specifically for those individual people on the course. So yes, part-time, and yes, if you would like to do it part-time and you're not quite sure how, come and chat to us and we will talk to you about that. In terms of distance learning, we've had to do a lot of that this year because of COVID, unfortunately, but also we've had quite a swift learning kind of opportunity by moving things into a blended learning and virtual environment. So it's not an ideal scenario, but we've had to learn to work with it this year. But going forward, it's not our plan to offer a distance learning course in this area. And the reason is that we're a conservatoire, and as a conservatoire, our training ethos is about getting people together and working collaboratively, because that's what people do in industry. So we're trying to replicate what people do in industry. So it's very hard to do practice-based stuff online. So we've tried our best this year, and some things work reasonably well, but there are other things. There's no substitute for being in the room with other people learning in the same environment. So for the future, we're not looking at a distance learning course, but we do offer short courses in the department as well. So I'm not sure their one's up online at the moment, but every year we've got a portfolio of short course options where people can engage with us, possibly on a distance learning basis, possibly on a drop-in basis. Next question then is from Helen, and it says, what can I do to get a head start before the start of the course? That's a really good question. I would basically say get up to date on what's happening. So, you know, look at what's going on in politics, look at what's going on in arts policy, look at what the Arts Council's doing, see what they're doing in your area. There's also a magazine that you can get online called Arts Professionals. So have a look at that. That comes out weekly and it really goes into detail about what's going on in the arts in the UK. If you're an international student, look at Arts International magazine, because there are lots of things from across the world that go in there. And I think that comes out every month or every 6 weeks. And the other question that we've got here is, what are we looking for in the interview? Everybody's different as far as I'm concerned. We interview everyone for the course and we want to see your passion for being an arts manager. So talk to us a little bit about what your career aspirations are and tell us about how we can help you get to that place. You don't have to have a specific background. You don't have to have come with a certain kind of degree. So we're not looking for people who've done performing arts degrees. I mean, one year we had somebody who had done Viking studies. Another year we had somebody who was a professional surfer. Who is now a producer. So, you know, we take people from all walks of life, all ages. The eldest we've had is 54 on the course, and obviously youngest coming from undergrad. So it just depends who you are, what we can do for you. So don't think we're looking for anything specific, we're not. The next one then, quite a few things in this one from Samuel. When would be an appropriate time frame to move to Cardiff and study? So it says, I basically, I don't know that because it's up to you, but as long as you feel comfortable being in Cardiff for the first day of term and you're here for the start of term, it's your decision. If you'd like to come towards the end of the summer and, you know, make friends and things, that's fine. I don't know whether Lauren can say a bit more about this because she did her undergrad at the college first. So when did you first move to Halls, Lauren?
Halls give you like a time frame to move in, so it can be up to like 4 or 5 days, I think, before you start the course if you're going into Halls. If you're going for your own accommodation in the student places, your tenancy will often begin, I think it's the beginning of July. Okay. Or unless you're going into like sort of a young professional sort of tenancy, in which case it'll be on like a monthly basis. But there's plenty of accommodation out there for whenever you want to move up.
Thank you very much. You see, I didn't know that. That's something that I've learned tonight. Another question from Sam is, will studies be on campus or blended learning? So at the moment, we're envisaging a return to campus-based work this academic year. So some of our blended learning is going to start again from next week. And we're trying to basically get back to normal as soon as possible. So I'm looking forward to sort of post-Easter being able to get everyone back in the normal way we would normally work. And if people are going on placement in England, then I've read some stuff from Mr. Johnson today saying about how venues are going to start reopening from May onwards, which is all very good news. So as I said earlier, we have, you know, had a bit of accelerated learning in the digital world this year, which has worked very well for us. And we're very happy to look at how that works. But generally on the course, it's only the action learning sets in the summer that would be delivered online. And that's because our students are scattered far and wide. And it's a really good way on Zoom for people to be catching up in that kind of virtual format. So from next year, we do have some plans in place for next year to use the digital technology to our advantage. So there will be some pre-session work in the form of webinars and things like that. We used that this year for the course, and I think they worked quite well. So some of the learning was done in people's own time by, you know, logging onto our virtual learning environment, which is Moodle. Some of you might have used Blackboard when you're in university, or Moodle in school or uni. So some people will be logging on and watching a little video first, or doing a little bit of pre-work, and then they come to the session to look at how we can take that work further. So we'll be continuing with that work in that kind of way, but otherwise it's going to be in person. Next one then, Sarah, how has the course adapted to challenges faced by COVID? I think that I've sort of answered that already, but basically we're doing exactly the same as industry is doing at the moment. You know, everyone in industry is working from home if they can. So we've had to adapt our course to the way that industry is working. So we're mirroring exactly what industry is doing every stage of the way. So the challenges that arts managers are facing at the moment in industry, they're very different to the challenges that they were facing 2 years ago. So we're trying to upskill our students with the latest information so they're work ready when they graduate. So we've had to adapt what we do because of COVID, and we're teaching students with the kind of currency that they would expect to have going out into industry. So I don't think anybody has lost out in any kind of way. They've got a really realistic idea of what it's like working in the arts in industry at the moment. And would it be as valuable to study this course now as it was before COVID-19? Well, I think the sector is going to be challenged over the next few years. So I think it's even more important, and I'm not saying it because I'm trying to sort of, you know, do a marketing idea on the course, but if you're considering investing in master's training, postgraduate training, as a mother, I'd want my children to do something that would lead towards some kind of employment. It's up to you, obviously. Some people that come to us because they are already working and they want the recognition of having the qualification. But a lot of people come to us because they've gone out into industry after doing an undergrad course and they found it's really hard to get a job without having any experience and not really having any currency of what goes on in the arts. So I think it's more important than ever for all industries, not just ours, going forward, that you know that you are going out as upskilled as you possibly can be, and you've got a toolkit there that you can go and go to interviews and talk with confidence about the industry and the kind of experiences that you've had. So I think that we're going to be, you know, we've always been a valuable course. Our statistics sort of back that up, and the way that we're regarded in industry backs that up. But I think it's going to be even more important for every postgraduate student to be doing a course that's going to give them value for money in the future. And I think I'm back near the end now. So Ethan is the next one. He's been working as an independent music promoter for a number of years. How can I help him further his career in live music events and being an independent promoter? We're not specifically a music industry focused course, but the skills that you gain on this course are transferable across all genres. So if you want to work in music, drama or visual arts, all of the kind of skills that you learn will be relevant. We do have a couple of music people on the course every year. We've got 2 this year, one who's an emerging music promoter and one who's very established and has many years working as a jazz promoter. So I think that we have people from all different walks of life on the course. We wouldn't say you would specifically study things in a music industry kind of context. And if that's what you're looking for, then this isn't the course for you. But if you're looking to get those general kind of skills, then we will be able to give you that. And also we, in terms of doing placements and that kind of thing, we do have links with event companies and Live Nation. So there's possibilities there in terms of placements. And Yasmin is the next one. Does this program require previous experience in management? Not at all. You don't have to have studied management. You don't have to study performing arts. We're looking for somebody who really wants to work in the arts when they graduate, basically. And next one, I've got a couple more, I think. Are students with a pre-settlement scheme entitled to home fees? That's another one. I'm sorry, I don't even know what that means. I'm terribly sorry, but that's the kind of thing that you need to go back to admissions with that question, and they will talk to you about fees. And then Aled is asked the next one. I'm currently working full-time. I'd like to gain a formal qualification. I'm unable to study. What are my options? So we actively encourage people like Aled to apply for the course, who are working in the arts sector, and the kind of study options I talked about earlier. Hopefully we would be able to talk to people individually and try and work out what's the most appropriate pathway through the course for them. So particularly if somebody's got 3 years experience, then we can look at that whole APEL option, and this will cut down the amount of study people have to do for the full MA, and it will cut down the overall cost that you have to pay as well. And nearly at the end, I've got 2 more here. I would like to know the kind of opportunities available to international graduates. So we regularly take applications from international graduates and offer places to them as well. You have exactly the same options and opportunities on the course as any other candidate. If you want to go back to your home country for your final placement, then we will help facilitate that. And we do a little section on international arts management in our management and leadership module, our first one. There's also lots of programs across the college that, because we have a lot of international students in the college, there are lots of programs that help you settle in, and there are some that are very specifically for postgraduate students as well. And the question that they've asked as well with that one is, I would like to know how the RWCMD plans to continue its programme in the face of rising COVID concerns. Hopefully I've answered that question previously. We're operating in line with Welsh Government guidelines at the moment, so we're trying to operate as COVID safely as we possibly can. We've got very strict protocols in place, and there are lots of things happening in the college at the moment within those guidelines. And as I've said, in terms of the more academic theory-based teaching, that's going to start again on our course from next week. And the very last question, how is the course structured to accommodate part-time students working outside of Cardiff or in other regions of Wales in the creative industries? So if you're going to study the course part-time, we do ask you to allocate, it's 15 hours, so it's sort of 2 days a week to us for your study. And you would need to be available in Cardiff for those 2 days. So I think Elisa said it's on Monday and Tuesday in the first year in the autumn. It does sort of get a little bit less in some terms that we ask you to actually be there in person. And then in the second year, at the moment, it's sort of Wednesdays, a little bit online on Tuesdays for action learning. But it depends what your needs are. And I think that we'd like to discuss that on an individual basis. If you can't get to Cardiff or when you can get to Cardiff, I think that we would have to talk to the individual about that. As I said, we don't offer a fully online course or a fully distance learning course, so you wouldn't be able to, catch up later on if you couldn't attend a lecture. So you'd need to commit to actually coming in. That's part of the ethos of the course, that we want to be with you and work with you. So we would ask you to do that, but also we'll chat to you on an individual basis if you want to do a slightly different way of engagement with us. Okay, I've finished all of my questions. Phew. Okay, so now we'll open the floor for questions from people who are here in person. If you've got a topic you want to discuss, raise your hand or stick a message in the private chat thing or general chat. Gosh, we must have covered absolutely everything.
I know.
Oh yeah.
I raised my hand there. It's just.
Oh, you did. I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Georgina, hello.
That's all right. Yeah, I just had a question. Like, outside of the masters, of course, that's going to be like the main part of, coming and doing the masters. But I was wondering if there's like outside opportunities for any kind of music making or any type of kind of extracurricular societies or something like that. That was just a question.
Would one of the students like to talk about this? Because you guys will know what's going on, really. I'm sort of going towards Lauren again, because she was a music student in the college as well. So she'll probably have loads of information about all the different things that go on.
Well, I mean, yeah, you could. There's always opportunities in extracurricular setting to, make contacts with people on like the music course, but. Well, it depends how much time you have, because you'll be quite busy with the course as well. But I presume, well, hopefully, fingers crossed, by next year we'll be in more of a safe environment for that to happen, because I know all the musicians are sort of socially distancing as well at the moment. But as for societies, I don't think there are actually any specific like music societies, but from a musician's perspective, they're all so collaborative. They'll jump at the chance, performance is performance at the end of the day. So they'd probably love to work with you, if that answers your question.
One thing I will add to that, Georgina, is that we've got an organisation called REPCO in college, which is an entrepreneurial programme, where the students take over the college at certain times of the year. So it's sort of spread throughout the year now. There used to be one Repco week, but now it's different things. So there's funding available to go and pitch an idea, to actually pull together a number of different people within the college. So you could be working with a designer, a composer, a couple of actors. I mean, one year, one of our arts managers decided to stage a fully sort of fledged musical theatre production. So, you know, that was a massive undertaking, but she got funding to do that. So Repco runs throughout the year. It's mostly music students who take up the Repco mantle. So if you wanted to work with some musicians, you could do via the Repco kind of project as well. I've got a couple of questions in the chat, if that answers your question, Georgina. So could I talk a little bit more on the role of a creative producer in industry? So difference between a producer and a creative producer is the word creative, obviously, but it is essentially that you have a creative input. So you may be shaping artistically how a production works. So a writer might come to you and ask you to help shape their production, and you might have some kind of directorial or any kind of creative input to the production. And then you will be doing all the producer role alongside that. So on our creative producing pathway, we look at giving you all of the kind of tools that you need to be a producer. And that's everything from scheduling something, fundraising, basically seeing an event right through from beginning to end. But then adding that creativity onto it as well. Now, the difference between that and an event manager is somebody who was a head of events in a previous life, is that you don't have anything to do with the sort of overall financing of a production if you are an events manager. So you're just looking after the kind of scheduling and all the bits that go with that, planning that event. But the producing side of it is that it's basically becomes your event. And so you are actually thinking about from conception. So if somebody comes to you with an idea and wants to put it on, you're actually sort of managing that right throughout the whole process. And then the last bit, the cherry on the top, is if you are the creative producer for that, then you're actually contributing to the creative ideas of it. So it is different from event management. Next one then. Hope that answered your question, Joe. Alicia, of course, the placements could support someone looking to transition from entry-level roles in the arts into middle management. Yes, exactly, Alicia. That's exactly what we're hoping to do with people who are already working. That's sometimes a sticking point in some people's career, that they get stuck at a certain level or in a certain kind of job and they want to transition into another area, or they want to get up higher. So our management and leadership modules really do focus on that, giving you those tools to understand what it's like to manage teams of people and then move into leadership roles, manage a company financially, and then looking at planning. It might be a project that you're planning or a business plan that you're producing. So you get those kind of skills that you would need at that kind of higher level. Hopefully that answers that one. And then the last one here is from Molly. Could you say anything on what sort of content is involved in the International Arts Management and People and Performance Management modules? We don't have a People and Performance Management module. People and Performance is part of the, it's basically about managing people. So the managing people bit comes in the first management and leadership module, where we start off with looking at setting up a company, and then we look at things like governance and putting your vision and your value statements together. Then we look at managing people. So we talk about managing teams, we talk about managing yourself, we talk about managing volunteers. Then we look at leadership concepts and the kind of leadership theory and that goes alongside the arts, and where we kind of are in tune with it and where we're not in tune with it. And then looking at what leadership is needed in the arts sector for the future. So at the moment, in the autumn, we were really looking at kind of post-COVID, what kind of things were going to come out of that. So we were looking at scenario planning for the future for arts organisations. So that's what we're doing in that kind of thing with people. The international arts management staff. So Eleni, you've just been studying that. So what have you been looking at in that block?
So we've been looking at different perspectives and how we can kind of have an objectivity when it comes to international arts management. Like I said earlier, I've got experience in that, but I found those modules were incredibly beneficial because they allowed me to see different aspects of international arts management that were offered. So it was looking at scenarios about how you would possibly plan an international excursion out to, let's say, the Far East, but there may be a problem that you might have to encounter, that you might have to deal with. And so as a cohort, we were dealing with that in general. So we were given different scenarios, we were given different perspectives to look at, different things that we had to take into account. And then we would come back and compare and contrast them. So it was great to see. It was kind of like workshopping, throwing ideas out there, having a look at different scenarios, putting together what we considered to be a viable international project in, let's say, London or in the UK, and then taking it out abroad, or the different factors that were involved with that. So what was really good was that Yvette, who was running it, has a large amount of experience with doing that professionally, and so she's got a great insight in how that's supposed to run. And it just is very beneficial for anybody who wants that perspective alongside modules that are running in a more general sense, because it allows you to see the different opportunities that you might have when it comes to looking at the kind of things you might encounter in international management, like boundaries, making sure that you're looking after cultural perspectives, coming from different viewpoints and keeping an open mind while considering your professional options. So definitely beneficial, but taken within the context of everything else that we're learning, it really packs an extra punch. So it's definitely something that is worthwhile on top of everything else.
Thank you. One thing that came to mind when Eleni was saying that, because we're working at postgraduate level, a lot of the kind of tools that we give you are things that we will give you on our virtual learning environment, so on our Moodle site. So things like that are very current at the moment is what is happening about artists moving into Europe and people coming back over to here to perform in festivals and Tier 5 visas and all of that kind of thing. We could be really boring and do loads of classes all based around what you have to do to get a Tier 5 visa, what constitutes the 90-day rule and all of that kind of thing. But we don't spend our time doing that. We try and spend our time looking at higher level thinking, and all of that kind of stuff we put on our Moodle site for people to access. So it becomes a repository of really current information from arts policy across the whole of the UK and across the wider world, right down to, well, this has come out last week, this is guidance on what you should be doing with opening up your venue in COVID. So right across the range of our modules, everybody gets access to an awful lot of additional information that I basically say, download it, it's there. You've got a filing cabinet effectively full of current information and good working practice. I put a toolkit up there today actually on Moodle for a session that we did before Christmas on governance, but it's really about being guided by young voices on board. So this will resonate with people who did the session about having a young voice on the board of directors. But there's a new document that I got today, so I've stuck that in the governance section today so that people can access that. So we're always updating when anything new comes out, and we share it with our students. So they're very, very current, and it's almost like having a library of information that would take you months or years, so you'd probably never get to do it yourself. I think that's all of our questions today. So it's really time, I suppose, to wrap everything up. So feel free, please, to ask us questions on that admissions@rwcmd.ac.uk address. And somebody will get back to you either with an appointment to have a chat like this or just to answer your question via email. If you're a bit shy and you didn't want to ask anything and you want to ask it later, that's absolutely fine. Really understand that some people don't want to stick their head above the parapet in this kind of thing. So if nobody else has got anything else to say, I'd just like to say a very quick thank you to our lovely students for joining us this evening and giving you their take on things and how things are on the course and in Cardiff. And I'd also like to thank Dara and Carwyn for their facilitation today. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. I'll just say good evening, but I will stay here in case anybody wants to say anything right at the end. So thanks a lot. You can toddle off if you want to, or you can stay if you want to chat.